As Adrian Wojnarowski reported, center Robert Williams will be out 8 to 12 weeks after undergoing successful surgery on his left knee. That timeline has Williams back at the earliest around the end of November, but the latest would be Christmas. And so coming off a finals loss, it's been a tough offseason for the Celtics. They started it with lead assistant coach Will Hardy going to the Jazz. Boston made some big offseason moves. They acquired Malcolm Brogdon from the Pacers, but then Danilo Gallinari tore his ACL. We got this news from Woj a couple of weeks ago, and the surgery now completed. The Celtics have announced that Robert Williams is going to be out 8 to 12 weeks, and Ime Udoka has been suspended for the season. So up until this week, the Celtics, they were widely considered, when you looked at the Vegas lines even, the winners of the offseason and the favorites heading into the year. But there is so much that is going on in Boston right now. So, Zach, I'm going to start with you here. When you look at what is going to happen with the Celtics on the court this year, how do you assess that?
So the Celtics season turned last year when they implemented a new defensive scheme that was centered around Robert Williams. The two most important ingredients in that scheme were Ime Udoka, who with his coaches came up with it, and Robert Williams, who they put off the ball and said, you're going to guard the worst offensive player on the other team, regardless of position, and block the heck out of everybody at the rim. And they took off like a rocket ship. Both those ingredients are gone. One for the whole season, one for 30-plus games. You mentioned Gallinari. You didn't mention Jaylen Brown kind of recovering from being mentioned in Kevin Durant trade talks. It's just so much instability. It's hard enough to win a title, which is the goal, when everything's great and everyone's healthy. It's really hard when you got to come together and shut out all this noise and deal with these kind of injuries.
Well, I think that, I'm a glass half full girl, okay?
We all know you're a glass half full
I'm a glass half full girl.
If there's the slightest bit of sunshine, Shanae is going to in it.
I'm going to find it. Okay, so I'm going to start with the good, right? The good is that this is a team that was 2 wins away from, an NBA championship. So they have the blueprint. They have the roadmap to figure out, we know what it feels like. We know what a final series feels like. We know exactly what that defense was like. We know who we need to have off ball. We know who we need to have on ball. They have that feel, and for hoopers, that's very important because you feel like once you know that, you can build off of that. And so they're going to probably feel like we can go out there and compete. But at the end of the day, having a young coach, the youngest in the NBA, right, Malika, 34 years old, that's stepping in, that has 3 years as an assistant coach on staff with the Celtics, it's all about adjustments when it comes to the biggest moments of the year, when it comes to the playoffs. And so that experience of trying to navigate what we knew last year that worked, but also what is your style and how that can work for us now, that's going to be really difficult. So I'm not completely down because these players are mature enough, and every year we've seen individually with their game. Talented, yeah. Every year individually with their game, they make leaps and bounds. It's just, strategically in those difficult moments, 1 possession, 2 possession games, how do we defend this? How do we score on that? That's sort of where you need that coach to elevate you, and we'll see what Coach Joe has.
Kendrick?
You know what? I feel pretty confident in the Celtics, even though they've been through a lot and they dealing with this situation. And here's why. When you're dealing with this type of situation, I feel like this could bring the team even closer, okay? And I feel like when you look at Brad Stevens and he said this was the best guy for the job and it wasn't even close, that goes to show me that he actually have a relationship and he has the respect in that locker room. And when you have guys like a guy like Al Horford in there that could actually be an extension of the coach on and off the floor, then all of a sudden you could have that togetherness. All of a sudden, we watched the Celtics last year. We watched them struggle tremendously the first half of the season to the point where I thought it was time to break the Jays up, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
We remember.
All of a sudden, they gathered it.
We remember.
Yeah, it's cool. I know we keep receipts. It's all good. Listen, but it came down to the point they were about 3 games below 500, and then they went on one of the best regular season runs towards the end of the season in NBA history. So this team thrive off of adversity. They're going to miss Robert Williams, but they have enough to get it done. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are going to take the necessary steps for us, their leadership, and they'll be okay. I think they'll be fine.
And Perk, I know that was reverse psychology. Let me say break up the Jays so that they come together and band against me, and then we start winning. That was just a little bit.
No, that's really how I felt.
I feel you. I think, especially to Zach's point, you're going to miss that anchor in Robert Williams, but at the same time, when did the Celtics turn things around? Around Christmas Day? That's when you can potentially get him back, and they turned into the #1 defense for the rest of the season. So as much as it looks bad not having him, I do think there is a little bit where, it would help. You're right, Malika. Like, I see her on the side, like, saying, you need him from the jump. This is true. But having him at all next season, you know you have enough talented players to stay afloat in the East.
Yeah, well, particularly, I have faith in what Malcolm Brogdon. I know it's completely different when we're talking about big men here, but I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to watch for the Celtics on the court this season.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.